Along with the progress, there's been some collateral damage, and I think that the collateral damage is an awareness of the moral architecture of inside. And it seems to me that's what needs to be rediscovered, both in the schools, in the churches, and the synagogues, and really a vocabulary needs to be rebuilt so people can understand their own divisions, and especially their own weaknesses. And it seems to me there are just a few final rules I'll close with, that if the struggle against your own weakness is the central drama of your life, then pride is the central vice. Pride is what blinds you to the reality of your divided nature. Pride blinds you to your own weakness. Pride misleads you into thinking you're better than you are. And pride, which is now a positive virtue, has to be regarded as the worst of all sins. Humility, on the other hand, is the central virtue. Humility is not thinking lowly of yourself. Humility is having an accurate assessment of your own nature. Humility is knowing that you're an underdog in the struggle against your own weakness. Humility is knowing that you're not equipped to perform the tasks that history or God has asked you to perform. The third thing to know is that nobody can wage the campaign against your own weakness on your own. Individual will, individual reason, individual compassion are not strong enough to defeat selfishness, sin, pride, and self-deception. You have to rely on something from outside: God, family, friends, rules, ancestors, traditions. And one of the big pivots here, by the way, is a move from a society in which you distrust the self and trust things outside the self to our contemporary society where people trust the self and distrust things outside the self. Rule 4 is defeating weakness often means quieting the self. Only by quieting the self can you tap into external strengths you need. Only by quieting the self can you see the world clearly. Ninth, that the campaign against weakness, or fifth, I throw out random numbers. The campaign against weakness is an ironical campaign. It's filled with paradoxes. Necessary to embrace weakness to build strength. The things you most fervently want success in are often the areas you have to renounce and withdraw from. Your greatest pain leads to your greatest glory. As Soloveitchik himself put it, holiness is not a paradise, but a paradox. Finally, the best social arrangements are those that take full account of the crooked timber of humanity. The highest public virtue is moderation, the ability to seek balance between competing truths. It's always a mistake that you can earn an ultimate victory. It's always a mistake to think you can understand the world because it's too complex for you. And so this is sort of what I'm trying to do in my work, which is rediscover first an architecture of inside and then the laws that apply to it. And I do think there are only two ways to teach morality, basically. One is through habit, through imposing a certain set of very rigorous little disciplines, which will then give you strength to lead a disciplined life overall. And the second is exemplars. And for a writer or a speaker, really the only opportunity is exemplars. And so I do think putting Dorothy Day in front of students, Paul Revere in front of students, Francis Perkins in front of students, at least gives them something to mimic. There's a guy named Alan Melthoff who did an experiment on a baby who was 43 minutes old. He leaned over the baby and he wagged his tongue at her. And she's 43 minutes old. She doesn't know what a face is. She doesn't know what a tongue is. She doesn't know what a self is or what a person is. But she wags her tongue back. Babies are trained to mimic. And this is basically how we learn. And so I do think it's through that exemplar model, if you're not a basketball coach, that's what you have available to you. But I think the first task is just to revive a moral vocabulary. Revive a word like sin, division, and then everything else will follow. So thank you very much.